We're going to answer the ultimate question between Disney World or Disneyland. Which park is truly better? How we're going to do that, we're going to ride every single ride that both Disney World or Disneyland have, or any similar ride. So we're gonna kick it off here at the Magic Kingdom. We gotta test all 4 parks out in the Disney World Resort, and then we're gonna test both parks out at Disneyland and fully compare to see which park is truly better. Whichever attraction is better will get a point. Whichever resort has the most amount of points at the end will be the ultimate winner and the true best Disney park in America. Starting at the Magic Kingdom, this is easily the park with the most attractions that closely resemble Disneyland's. Both parks were shaped by Walt's original vision, and because of that, they share a very similar layout. Main Street USA leading into classic lands like Adventureland, Frontierland, and Tomorrowland. While there are differences, the overall structure and many of the ride lineups feels almost like siblings. So let's kick things off with a true Disney staple, the Jungle Cruise. This attraction is iconic across Disney parks worldwide. Seeing a line this short for Jungle Cruise is a rarity, so this is great. And was even an opening day ride back at Disneyland in 1955. Over the decades, it has gone through several updates, including a major reimagining just a few years ago. And while both versions share the same core concept and signature humor, they each offer something unique. Jungle Cruise is a weird one because this one, while very similar, is so different. There's no tunnel, it's shorter, and I thought a lot of scenes felt smaller. The overall presentation, the skippers we got on both rides, I'm giving Florida the point for Jungle Cruise 100%. Next up is the newest attraction to debut at both Magic Kingdom and Disneyland, Tiana's Bayou Adventure. While the ride system itself dates back to the 90s from its Splash Mountain origins, 2024 brought a full reimagining and the grand opening of both versions. Compare this to what I'll probably look like after Disneyland's, will be a stark difference. Meanwhile, at Disneyland... Okay, we're stopping. My pants are like... They're done. They're done for the day. Tiana's itself is so similar across both coasts, yet both rides feel drastically different. Disneyland traverses through its scenes much faster and has a much smoother layout that just makes more sense with the ride itself. However, you get way more wet, which in my opinion makes the ride less enjoyable. Disney World gives you more time to appreciate the scenes. However, with a story like this, that honestly is a negative because there are so many dead sections throughout the ride, but the re-rideability is there. Oh. That's why I use this bag as protection. I think in the end, it's gonna have to come down to the overall presentation, which means Disneyland in California is going to get the point. Before I move on, due to refurbishments within both parks, there will be 4 attractions that will not be featured in this video. Those are Casey Jr. Circus Train, It's a Small World, Buzz Lightyear, and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Dude, I'm so excited to ride Big Thunder. About that. Let's move on to another iconic attraction, the Haunted Mansion. Both versions share the same core experience, but each brings something unique to the table. Disneyland's ride is a bit shorter, yet it features some standout elements. Most notably, its stretching room is an actual elevator that lowers guests an entire floor. Plus, the first 2 scenes you ride through at Walt Disney World are part of the queue in the Disneyland version. During my recent visit, though, Disneyland had its Nightmare Before Christmas holiday overlay in full swing, and it's genuinely one of the best seasonal transformation of any Disney ride. It's hard to truly judge everything here in the Haunted Mansion because of the overlay. I would say when it comes to standard Haunted Mansion, I gotta give Disney World the point because Disney World has more scenes, it's a longer ride. I just feel it's a more well-rounded attraction overall. Heading over to Fantasyland, we're starting with Peter Pan's Flight, a classic staple. So Peter Pan's Flight, there is a big difference between the two, and that's actually just because ours is an omni-mover, it never stops, whereas Disneyland's has a regular loading station. Now the ride experience is virtually identical across both rides, but I think we're gonna have to judge this by the setup. When we're looking at the queue and the loading process overall, I'm 100% going to have to give this point to Florida. Next up, we've got a true classic, the Battle of the Carousels. At the end of the day, they're both very traditional carousels, so there isn't a difference in the ride experience at all. But the history behind Disneyland's, knowing that Walt himself rode the original, makes it feel a little more meaningful. So for that reason alone, this point has to go to Disneyland. Next up, we have Winnie the Pooh. Here in Magic Kingdom, this was once Mr. Toad's Wild Ride that they overhauled into this attraction. Meanwhile, at Disneyland, it was once Country Bear Jamboree that they overhauled to this attraction. So both rides followed the exact same storyline, yet the presentation is honestly drastically different. It's fascinating to compare the two because scenes appear in one version but not the other, making this a matchup that can genuinely go either way depending on what you value most in the experience. This Winnie the Pooh just fits. I mean, everything about this version is better than ours. ours feels like they crammed too much in such a small space, whereas this one, they gave it the time, they gave it the space it needed. California's getting the point for you to do. Another classic on the list is the Mad Tea Party. At the end of the day, it's your iconic spinning teacups ride, so there really isn't much debate. Both versions are basically identical. But if anything, I'm gonna give Florida a slight edge, thanks to the covered canopy that shields you from the heat and the more detailed centerpiece. There's just a bit more in the presentation of Magic Kingdom compared to Disneyland's. Now it's time for a ride that has a massive difference. Over here at Disney World, we have Tomorrowland Speedway, which throughout the years, as more attractions came, has shrunken significantly, so let's go ride this thing.
So you're telling me this isn't like Autopia?
Basically, take Autopia and take everything that makes Autopia good away from it. Like the theming, the biomes, the scenery. Yeah. I really don't think there's a debate at all between Tomorrowland Speedway and Autopia. Autopia is an actual ride. Tomorrowland Speedway is a shadow of itself. California gets the point 100%.
You know, I would love to drive through some biomes and, you know, go for a very long experience, but instead I get this. What a great view.
Don't worry, maybe we'll have a better view with the battle of the family coasters, Chippendale's Gadget Coaster versus the Barnstormer. Now, Gadget Coaster's cool and all, but Barnstormer here I have a very special attachment to because it was my first ever roller coaster back when I was 3 years old. When I rode this for the first time 20 years ago, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be doing this, or definitely heavily biased with this ride.
What a classic. It's my first roller coaster, you gotta love it.
Now it's time to go ahead and get a ride on Under the Sea with Ariel, but looks like we have one small problem. So it looks like Under the Sea with Ariel here is down, and it's been down for a minute. I've been trying to see if it would go back up. It's not. So because of that, we're just gonna give Disneyland the automatic point because they don't want to open their Ariel. Which I get, there's obviously maintenance, there's downtime, things are gonna happen. Well, with that, let's move on to the last attraction for Fantasyland, Dumbo, the Flying Elephant. Arguably the most iconic Disney attraction ever built. When you see any kind of these rides, you call it a Dumbo ride. I think Disneyland's location is way more iconic. It's right in the center of the park, and it's a staple, it's the original. However, Disney World's has two sides, which makes it way more efficient. That line keeps moving, and the queue is 10 times better. So from a presentation point of view, once again, Disney World is going to get the point. Final attraction look at Fantasyland is Mickey's PhilharMagic. It's a great 3D show with Donald on an amazing adventure. However, I think when it comes down to the theater and the atmosphere overall, once again, Disney World is going to take the point since that theater was made for PhilharMagic. Moving into Tomorrowland, we hit one of the biggest debates in Disney park history. Which Space Mountain is better? The two versions are drastically different in presentation, layout, and overall ride experience. While Disney World Space Mountain opened back in 1971 and has barely changed. It's the last true classic version of the attraction, meaning it's definitely rougher and jankier, but it also carries a charming vintage feel you can't find anywhere else. On the other hand, Disneyland's version received a full overhaul in 2005, resulting in a much smoother ride with upgraded effects and an incredible soundtrack. That elevates the whole experience. Technically, it's the stronger attraction, but it just doesn't hit quite the same. This one is genuinely tough. Disneyland Space Mountain is sleek and thrilling, but when it comes to pure ride feel, I can't resist the wild, unpredictable chaos of Florida's version. So as hard as this choice is, I gotta give the point to Disney World.
Disneyland is so much better.
I love the jank and like classicness of ours.
And now we have Astro Orbiter, the centerpieces of Tomorrowland, yet they look nothing alike.
So the biggest difference between this Astro Orbiter and Disneyland's Astro Orbiter, obviously, is going to be the fact that we are quite elevated here. And Disneyland's is flat on ground, it's the marquee of Tomorrowland. Ours is, yeah, it's easily the big entrance to Tomorrowland, but the view is quite different.
For me, I think this is no contest. 100% the Magic Kingdom is going to be a much better ride.
So now we're here in the Swiss Family Treehouse, and they just redid the treehouse over in Adventureland. So I'm very interested to see what theirs looks like.
This treehouse got a full renovation a couple of years ago, maybe just a year ago, and it is very noticeable. It's a lot more modern, there's so much more to see, a lot more moving pieces, whereas ours feels more like a time capsule. Everything is still, everything is set. There's not much to it, which I do kind of like. It adds a classic taste on it, but here's something like this. Unfortunately, once again, gotta say there's no competition. Disneyland's gonna win for the treehouse. Now here's a ride that is known to have a drastic difference between the two versions. Pirates of the Caribbean. I grew up on this ride. It's an incredible ride, but let's see how it compares to its other counterpart. I would love to actually debate the Pirates of the Caribbean attractions. Where do I begin? Oh yeah, Disneyland is better in every way, shape, form, identity, I don't care. There's longer, the scenes are better, everything is better. There's just no competition here, I'm not even gonna try.
You grew up on this one? That's embarrassing.
I know. Now, it is time for one of my favorite shows and a true classic from Disney World and Disneyland, and that's the Enchanted Tiki Room.
This might be the first one that we're both equally excited for.
The way this has been my most anticipated thing to do today, because I just love this show that much.
The Tiki Room is one of the best shows ever made. It's got everything you need. Animatronic birds singing catchy songs in an incredibly amazing atmosphere in a room I honestly wouldn't mind living in. It's the perfect attraction to sit back, vibe, and relax. Over the years, Disney World's version has gone through a number of changes, while Disneyland's has remained true to the original. The fountain still works, the full show is intact, and there are 0 cuts to the runtime. Disney World, on the other hand, features a shortened version. To be fair, I do think the presentation and overall look of the room at Disney World is much better, but with the show being trimmed down, it's hard to beat Disneyland's commitment to preserving the full experience. So for this, Disneyland is getting the point. Well, we had to get back to Main Street to check out the other parks, so to do that, we had to ride the railroad, a true staple for both parks. Right now, Disney World is only taking you from Storybook Circus to Main Street and back. It's a very awkward thing because of all the construction going on over in Frontierland. Meanwhile, Disneyland's does the full loop, and not only do they do the full loop, they literally have an attraction within the railroad, something Disney World will likely never do. So no doubt Disneyland is getting the point 100%. Now it is time for us to check out the other parks in the Walt Disney World Resort, but first we have to ride the monorail back to the parking lot. Now, Disneyland also has a monorail, but theirs acts as more as a straight up attraction. It does stop in downtown Disney, but it gives you a full-blown tour of the Disneyland Resort. Whereas in Florida, it is a main way of transportation to get to the other parks and to get to your car and to get to other resorts. When it comes to size and comfort and all of the above, I do agree that Disney World has a much better monorail system than Disneyland. So now let's hop around to some of the other Walt Disney World parks and finish off our comparisons for Disneyland Park. We start at Hollywood Studios. Surprisingly, even though this is the closest overall comparison to California Adventure in Florida, a lot of the overlapping attractions are actually found at Disneyland Park instead. We'll start with Star Tours, one of the original simulator attractions and the very first Star Wars ride built. While both versions are essentially identical with only minimal differences, I'm giving a slight edge to Florida. Why? More ride stations. That extra capacity keeps the line moving, meaning the wait at Hollywood Studios rarely gets too long, whereas Disneyland's version tends to suffer a bit more since it was just a reskin of the original Adventures Through Inner Space. Moving on, we head to Toontown for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Now, while Florida has the original version, they had to completely gut and replace the gray movie ride, which left them with pretty limited space to work with. Meanwhile, Disneyland built their version from the ground up, and boy does it show. The more spacious scenes at Disneyland create a noticeably smoother, more cohesive ride experience, and the queue is on a completely different level. Honestly, it's not even close. Disneyland easily gets the point on this one. Now we've got to talk about something pretty interesting, because for this next comparison, I'm counting the entire land, mostly because these two versions are almost a picture-for-picture copy of each other, and of course, I'm talking about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. The land is packed with experiences: Oga's Cantina, the Lightsaber Workshop, Droid Depot, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, and what I believe is the greatest attraction ever built, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. Both versions of Galaxy's Edge are absolutely top tier, and their overall presentation is completely identical. So at this point, choosing a winner comes down to the very, very small details. Now, Disneyland has something Disney World just doesn't deliver on the same level: walk-around characters. Yes, Disney World has some character appearances, but nowhere near the level of Disneyland. Over there, you can meet iconic characters like Luke Skywalker and Anakin roaming through the land at certain times of the year. Meanwhile, at Disney World, we're lucky if we spot the Mandalorian. And on top of that, their transitions into and out of Galaxy's Edge are much smoother and more immersive, the surrounding area is more immersive, and their maintenance is much better. Perfect example, their cannons on Rise work. Ours has yet to work since the parks reopened from COVID. So with that, Disneyland is going to take the point and tie this thing up. Now we gotta hop over to Epcot real quick, where something funny, Disneyland Park only has one ride to compare, and that's Nemo. The Living Seas with Nemo at Epcot is a nostalgic ride for me, and honestly, for pretty much every kid. It was one of my favorites growing up, but over at Disneyland, their Nemo attraction is a staple. It's such an interesting ride. I mean, it's such an odd concept. Obviously, Florida used to have this. It's now gone. It's now aerial. But I wish it was still there. 20,000 Leagues with this attraction would be so cool. You go under the water. There's projections and scenes under the water. This ride is truly ahead of its time, I believe, whereas ours at Epcot, it's trapped in the past. It's in need of a renovation, whereas this, I loved it. No doubt, when it comes to Finding Nemo, Disneyland is getting the point. With Disneyland taking the lead, we head over to Animal Kingdom where things get pretty interesting. Let's start with a massive matchup. Matterhorn bobsleds versus Expedition Everest.
I know it may be a drastic comparison to say Everest versus Matterhorn, but I mean, they're two snow-covered mountains. Both are roller coasters. You have to compare the two.
Animal Kingdom, home to the modern take on the concept. A smooth, high-speed mine train that sends you more than 100 feet in the air, racing through a massive man-made mountain packed with impressive effects and surprising moments. Meanwhile, Disneyland offers the original man-made mountain and the original tubular steel coaster, Matterhorn bobsleds, the classic that arguably changed the coaster industry forever. I know this may be the hottest take personally for me, but I think when you're looking at the mountain versus the mountain, when you're looking at Expedition Everest, obviously it's a great ride, and overall, it is a much better ride. Way better capacity, much smoother ride, way more happening. But when you look at the legacy that Matterhorn has created, the historic aspect of Matterhorn, and the way that ride still holds up, it is still thrilling, it is still exciting, it is still an amazing ride. Their Yetis actually work. It is such a great attraction. In the end, I know this may be a take, I am giving Matterhorn the points over Everest. Okay, before you finish typing your hate comments, because I know that's exactly what you're doing, let's move on to the final matchup in Disneyland Park, Indiana Jones Adventure versus Dinosaur.
Is that actually a question? It's Indy, without a doubt.
I know. But some people, they're sad. They need to say, oh, we love Dinosaur, even though it's about to be replaced with the greatest attraction ever.
I love Dinosaur. I do think it's one of the greatest dark rides ever built, and I'm really going to miss it. But I'm not going to miss it that much because it's being replaced by one of the greatest attractions ever made. Indiana Jones Adventure is just on another level in every way possible. More intense, more chaotic, more cinematic. Just a full-on, out-of-control experience with some of the coolest set pieces you'll ever see in your entire life. Zero doubt in my mind, Disneyland gets the point. Alright, let's finally move on to Disney's California Adventure. Could Disney World start a comeback? Could they be on the road to winning, or will Disneyland continue their current domination? Well, what better way to start it off than arguably the most important, the most iconic, the biggest comparison in this entire video. That's right, I'm talking about Mater's Junkyard Jamboree and Alien Swirling Saucers. I mean, these are two rides that are just perfect. It's so hard to decide which one's better because they're both just the pure definition of elite. However, I've always preferred Cars over Toy Story, so I gotta give the point to Disneyland. Next up, we've gotta talk about Soarin'. These two versions are basically identical, aside from their finales. So since the experience is the same, it's all gonna come down to presentation. And honestly, I think Epcot wins this one. It just feels stronger. I like the airport hangar theme in California, but there's something about the neon aesthetic inside the land pavilion that just feels perfect for Soarin'. Now let's take a look at Toy Story Mania. Just like Soarin', we have to judge this one based on everything outside the ride because the attraction themselves are completely identical.
The feel of being in Andy's backyard, the indoor feel of this ride, instead of feeling it's at a carnival, it feels like you've been shrunk into the size of the toy and truly transformed in Andy's room. That's a much more immersive experience than what California has to offer. I think Florida's going to take the win for this one.
Well, we now hop over to the River Rapids, where, well, we do not have to discuss that. Let's get to the heavy hitters. Radiator Springs Racers versus Test Track. It's funny when you look at the two rides. They're so, and I mean so different. You have Radiator Springs Racers, one of the most immersive, one of the most beautiful, and just perfectly crafted dark rides I believe out there. Test Track here also does a great job at showing what Test Track should be all about. This latest version, this 3.0 version, does a great job at showing the progression of transportation and where technology has taken us in this modern day era. Now, if this was 2.0 versus Radiator Springs Racers, it's a no contest. Even with 3.0 versus Radiator Springs Racers, it is no contest. Test Track is great, it's a fun ride, but when you look at all the elements together, lane, theming, immersion, no doubt, California is getting the point with Radiator Springs Racers. Finally, we end with Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout versus the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. It is so hard to decide truly which one is better because while both rides have their pros and cons, the themes are so drastically different. And while I would take the Tower of Terror theme over Guardians, the ride itself here is much better than the one in Florida. There's way more drops, the projections are much better, the songs are great. When it comes to the entire experience from start to finish, I'm gonna have to give the point to California Adventure with Mission Breakout. I love Tower of Terror. This one hurts, but California just does it a little better. So with that, Disneyland Resort takes the win over the Walt Disney World Resort. There's just a certain magic to Disneyland. It's the original park, the one built from Walt's own vision, and there's a feeling inside that park you simply can't find anywhere else. Sure, there are tons of other comparisons we could have made. Disney World has incredible attractions you won't find at Disneyland and vice versa. Disney World has rides like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Disneyland has rides like the Incredicoaster. We could have compared food, shows, nighttime spectaculars, you name it. But that's the beauty of Disney. They've created two coasts full of enough variety that locals, tourists, and even hardcore fans like myself want to experience everything. Disney is truly like nowhere else, and this video just proves it. Even though Disneyland came out on top, you still need to visit both to understand how special they all are. So congratulations to Disneyland. My Florida heart is shattered, but honestly, it's worth it. I had the time of my life out there, and I can't wait to go back again soon.